All right, get ready, because today we're going to try to get inside the head of Donald Trump and see what we can learn from him.
That's interesting.
And we're using his book, How to Get Rich, to do it, which I think is appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely got a lot of experience to draw on. I
Definitely.
mean, he's had some pretty impressive successes.
And some pretty spectacular failures, too.
Yeah, true. I mean, he's definitely not afraid to take risks.
So, what I want to do with you today is go through some of the key takeaways from this book
Sounds good.
and see if we can glean any wisdom or insights that we can apply to our own lives.
Even if we're not trying to build a real estate empire.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, success is success, right? Whether you're a CEO or a stay-at-home parent.
Right. I mean, there are certain principles that apply across the board.
Okay, so let's dive in.
Okay.
One of the first things that really struck me about this book is that Trump claims he doesn't work for the money.
Yeah, that's a recurring theme throughout the book.
He says he works for the thrill of the deal, which is kind of surprising, right?
It is because his public image is so tied to wealth and extravagance.
Right, but he actually compares deal-making to art, like composing music or writing poetry.
He sees it as a creative process, which is an interesting way to look at it.
It is. It makes you think about what really motivates people.
Because if it's not just about the money, then what is it?
What gets you out of bed in the morning? What drives your ambition?
I think that's a question everyone should ask themselves.
Absolutely, because if you're not passionate about what you're doing, it's going to be hard to sustain that drive over the long haul.
For sure. I mean, you have to find something that truly excites you, that you're willing to put in the time and effort for.
Now, another thing Trump emphasizes in this book is the importance of building a strong team.
And he has a very specific way of going about it.
He's obsessed with hiring the best people, and I think his definition of best might surprise some people.
He prioritizes attitude and drive over experience in some cases.
Remember that story he tells about the fake deadline?
Oh, yeah, where he tests a new employee's speed by saying he needs a task done in 15 minutes because he's leaving, even though he's not going anywhere.
Right, it's like a little test to see how they react under pressure.
Which kind of makes sense because he's known for being a very demanding boss.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like a pretty intense work environment.
High pressure, fast-paced, results-oriented.
So what kind of workplace culture does that create? That's something to think about.
It would definitely attract a certain type of personality, someone who thrives on that energy.
And speaking of pressure, we can't forget that even Trump has faced major setbacks in his career.
Yeah, his near bankruptcy in the early 90s is a pretty stark contrast to the billionaire image we have of him now.
He actually describes walking 15 blocks in pouring rain to meet with the bankers who were deciding his fate.
Wow, that's a powerful image.
It is. It kind of humanizes him, you know?
Makes him seem a little more relatable.
Right, because it shows that even the most successful people face adversity.
And it's about how you handle those challenges that really defines you.
Now, another thing that surprised me about this book is Trump's emphasis on being accessible to his employees.
Yeah, he encourages them to share their ideas and makes himself available to them, which is pretty unusual for someone in his position.
He even tells the story about Carol Berkovitz, his quick-thinking assistant who talked a suicidal stranger off the ledge while covering the phones.
It's a pretty dramatic example, but it shows that he empowers his people and gives them autonomy.
Which can lead to unexpected results, like saving someone's life.
So it seems like he believes in recognizing the potential in others, even if it goes beyond their job description.
Right, and that's something we can all learn from, whether we're managing a team or just interacting with people in our everyday lives.
Absolutely, because you never know where someone's hidden talents might lie.
And you might miss out on some amazing contributions if you don't create a space for people to share their ideas.
Speaking of unexpected contributions, I think we have to talk about Jason Greenblatt and his unfortunate timing.
Oh yeah, this is a classic Trump story.
So Trump's having what he calls the worst day ever, and in walks Jason, who's a lawyer for the Trump Organization, asking for a raise.
Talk about bad timing.
Right.
You can practically feel the tension in the room.
Oh, absolutely. You just know it's not going to end well.
And of course, Jason doesn't get his raise that day.
But it's a great lesson for all of us about the importance of timing.
Right. It's not just about what you say, but when you say it.
Because context is everything.
And sometimes you just have to wait for the right moment.
I think we've all been there, where we've said the wrong thing at the wrong time.
Or miss an opportunity because we weren't paying attention to the situation.
So it's a good reminder to be mindful of the timing of our requests and our interactions with others.
Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about something Trump's arguably a master of building his personal brand.
He's very strategic about it.
He even compares himself to iconic brands like Chanel Number 5, which seems a little strange at first.
Yeah, it's not the most obvious comparison.
But if you think about it, Chanel has this reputation for luxury, exclusivity, and a very specific aesthetic.
And Trump has cultivated a similar image for himself.
Opulence, high standards, and an unmistakable style.
He's created a brand that's instantly recognizable.
And that has value because people are willing to pay a premium for the Trump name.
So it's not just about slapping your name on a building.
It's about creating an association, a feeling, an experience.
Right. It's about building a reputation that people trust and are willing to invest in.
What are some other brands that you think have done this successfully?
I think Apple is a great example.
Yeah, they've created this whole lifestyle around their products.
It's not just a phone. It's a statement.
Exactly, and that's the power of branding.
It's about creating an emotional connection with your audience.
So what can we learn from this? How can we apply this to our own lives?
I think it's about identifying our unique strengths and values and figuring out how to communicate those to the world.
Right, it's about building a personal brand that represents who we are and what we stand for.
And that can be applied to anything, whether you're looking for a job, starting a business, or just trying to make a good impression.
Now, another quality that Trump really emphasizes is persistence.
He believes that it's essential for achieving success.
He tells this story about Norma Forderer, an assistant who initially didn't impress him.
He thought she was too prim and proper to fit in with his fast-paced world.
But she was determined to prove him wrong.
She even offered to work for a low salary for a month as to show him what she could do.
And guess what? She ended up becoming one of his most valuable employees.
It just goes to show that you should never underestimate the power of persistence.
Right, because sometimes all it takes is that extra effort to overcome initial doubts.
And as Trump says, some things are worth waiting for.
Absolutely. I mean, think about the things you're most passionate about in your own life.
The things you're willing to fight for, to put in the time and effort for.
Those are the things that are worth being persistent about.
So, what are you willing to be persistent about? What dreams or goals are you not giving up on?
It's a great question to ask yourself because it really gets to the heart of what matters most to you.
Now, something else that really stood out to me in this book is Trump's emphasis on continuous learning.
He believes that it's crucial for staying ahead of the curve.
He even tells a story about Aldous Huxley, the writer who continued his studies even after going nearly blind.
It's a pretty inspiring example of the power of the human spirit.
Right, and it shows that learning isn't just for school, it's a lifelong endeavor.
Trump believes that staying curious and informed is essential for anyone who wants to be successful.
He even encourages us to learn something new every day, even if it's outside our comfort zones.
I love that because it's so easy to get complacent once you reach a certain level of success.
But the world is constantly changing, and we have to be willing to adapt and grow if we want to stay ahead.
So are you challenging yourself enough? Are you learning new things and expanding your knowledge base?
Or are you stuck in a rut, doing the same things over and over again?
It's a good question to ask ourselves because if we're not growing, we're stagnating.
And nobody wants that.
All right, let's move on to an area where Trump's considered a true pro, the art of negotiation.
He's definitely written the book on it, literally.
And what's interesting is that he sees negotiation as persuasion, not a power struggle.
He believes that true power lies in convincing others to see your point of view, not in forcing them to do something they don't want to do.
And he has some pretty interesting tactics for doing that.
Like using humor to break the ice, understanding your opponent's motivations, and being willing to walk away if the deal isn't right.
He also stresses the importance of preparation and research.
You have to know your stuff, know your opponent, know what you want to achieve.
Right, because knowledge is power in a negotiation.
Absolutely. The more you know, the better equipped you are to make a good deal.
So think about a recent negotiation you were part of.
Maybe it was at work or with a family member or even just buying a car.
How could you have applied some of these principles to achieve a better outcome?
Could you have been more prepared, more persuasive, more willing to compromise?
It's worth thinking about because negotiation is a skill that's valuable in all aspects of life.
Now, to illustrate Trump's approach to negotiation, let's talk about his acquisition of 40 Wall Street.
This is a case where his patience really paid off.
He watched this property for years waiting for the right opportunity.
And when the market crashed, he swooped in and got it for a fraction of its value.
It was a brilliant move.
It shows his ability to spot undervalued assets and his willingness to wait for the right moment.
And his vision, too, because he saw the potential in this building that others didn't.
So what's the lesson here?
Patience, timing, vision, and a bit of luck.
And a willingness to take a calculated risk.
Absolutely, because sometimes the biggest rewards come from taking a chance.
Now, here's a negotiation tip that might seem counterintuitive.
Oh, I'm intrigued.
Trump believes in holding back some information during the negotiation process.
Really? I would have thought he'd be all about being upfront and transparent.
He argues that revealing too much too soon can limit your flexibility and leverage.
That makes sense. You don't want to give away all your cards right away.
Right. It's about gathering information from the other side and adapting your approach as needed.
So it's a more strategic approach to negotiation.
Exactly. It's about being thoughtful and deliberate, not just reacting emotionally.
Which is easier said than done, especially when the stakes are high.
But that's where practice comes in.
The more you negotiate, the better you'll get at reading the situation and adapting your strategy.
Now, to illustrate the importance of knowing when to walk away from a deal, let's look at Trump's experience with the Commodore Hotel, which he transformed into the Grand Hyatt.
That was a huge project for him.
And he faced opposition from everyone, the city, the railroads, even potential partners.
But he didn't give up.
He fought for his vision and ultimately created one of the most iconic hotels in New York City.
It's a great example of his determination and his ability to overcome obstacles.
So what's the takeaway for us?
I think it's about believing in yourself and your vision, even when others doubt you.
And being willing to walk away if the terms aren't right.
Because sometimes that's the only way to get what you deserve.
Right. It's about knowing your worth and not settling for less.
And it's about having the courage to stand up for what you believe in.
Now, this next topic isn't easy to talk about, but it's something we all have to deal with at some point.
What's that?
Betrayal and disloyalty.
Oh, yeah. Those are tough ones.
Trump shares a story about an investment he made in a Broadway show that went sour because of shady dealings by the producers.
It's a reminder that even in business, things can get personal.
And that you have to be cheerful who you trust.
Absolutely, because not everyone has your best interests at heart.
So how do you deal with betrayal?
That's a tough question, because it can really shake your faith in people.
It can make you want to withdraw and not trust anyone.
But I think it's important to remember that not everyone is like that.
Right. There are still good people out there who are worthy of our trust.
So it's about finding a way to move forward without becoming cynical or jaded.
And learning from the experience so you can make better choices in the future.
And finally, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, let's talk about something Trump clearly values.
What's that?
The importance of mentorship and legacy.
He credits his upbringing and his parents' lessons about work ethic and financial responsibility for his success.
He also stresses the importance of passing those values on to his children.
It suggests that legacy isn't just about money.
It's about the principles and knowledge you pass down to the next generation.
So think about your own mentors.
The people who have had a positive impact on your life.
What lessons did they teach you?
And how are you shaping the lives of others?
It's a powerful thought to end on.
Because it makes us think about the bigger picture, beyond our own individual success.
And that's what it's all about, right? Making a positive impact on the world.
Absolutely. That's what gives our lives meaning and purpose.
But there's so much more to unpack in this book.
We've only just scratched the surface.
We'll be back with more insights from How to Get Rich after a quick break. Okay, we're back and ready to keep going with How to Get Rich. You know, for someone who's built his image on extravagance, Trump actually gives some pretty down-to-earth advice on investing.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, he basically says to keep it simple.
Interesting.
Stick with the big names, the established firms like Goldman Sachs or Merrill Lynch.
Kind of places your grandparents might have used, right?
Exactly. He even kind of makes fun of people who try to get rich quick with all these complicated schemes.
Oh, I bet he does.
He compares them to gamblers at his own casinos.
Oh, ouch.
It's actually kind of refreshing to hear that from him, you know?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it makes sense though, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best.
He even talks about how much he admires Warren Buffett's ability to explain complex stuff in a way anyone can understand.
Buffett's definitely got that gift.
Yeah, so it makes you think, are we overcomplicating things? Could we benefit from a more straightforward approach?
Worth considering. Now, what about bureaucracy? I feel like that's something everyone deals with.
Oh, absolutely. And Trump has a great story about that.
Oh, let's hear it.
It's about his friend, Wayne Newton, who was having some financial trouble with a bunch of banks.
Oh, no.
But instead of getting all bogged down in legal stuff,
Yeah.
Wayne took a more personal approach.
Okay.
He invited all the bankers and their families over for dinner.
Wow. Okay.
Got to know them on a human level, built those relationships, and they were able to work out a deal that worked for everyone.
So it's about going beyond the official channels, making those personal connections.
Exactly, because sometimes that can be more effective than just following the rules.
Makes sense. It also shows the power of going straight to the decision makers, cutting out the middlemen.
Oh, absolutely. That's a classic Trump move.
So have you ever been in a situation where that might have worked better? A more personal approach, I mean.
Oh, for sure. All the time. Okay, let's shift back to Trump's own values for a minute, because he talks a lot about how his family influenced him.
Makes sense. I mean, our upbringing shapes us all, right?
Absolutely. And he describes his parents as being very frugal, down to earth.
Huh. Interesting.
Big on hard work, education, earning your own way.
So very different from the image he projects now.
Right, but it gives you some context, a little glimpse into where he's coming from.
For sure. It's those foundational beliefs, right? They stay with you.
And it brings up a point about legacy.
Oh, yeah. How you want to be remembered.
It's not just about money, it's about the values you pass down.
Makes you think about your own values, right? What are you leaving behind?
Absolutely. Okay, let's circle back to negotiation for a sec.
Okay.
Because Trump's got a core philosophy that might surprise some people.
I'm all ears.
He says it's all about persuasion, not power.
That's an interesting distinction.
He believes real power is in getting people to see your side, not forcing them.
Okay, yeah, I get that.
And he's got all these tactics, like using humor, understanding the other person's motivation.
Right, so it's about finding common ground.
Exactly, and being willing to walk away if the deal isn't right.
That takes discipline, though.
Oh, absolutely. And he stresses preparation, too.
Of course, you got to do your homework.
Knowing your opponent, what they want, their weaknesses.
Yeah, knowledge is key.
So think about your own negotiations.
Okay.
Could you have used any of this?
To get a better result, you mean?
Yeah, like were you prepared enough? Could you have been more persuasive?
Good points to consider.
Now, for a classic Trump negotiation story.
Oh, tell me.
40 Wall Street, remember that?
Yeah, wasn't that one of his big wins?
Huge win. He'd been watching that property for decades.
Wow, talk about patience.
Right. And when the market tanked, he swooped in, got it for a steal.
So it's not just about being aggressive, it's about knowing when to strike.
Exactly. And having that long-term vision.
He also saw the potential in that building, didn't he?
Oh, yeah. Everyone told him to turn it into condos.
But he stuck to his guns.
Went with office space instead, and it paid off big time.
So sometimes the best deals are the ones you don't rush into.
Now, here's a tip that might seem weird.
Lay it on me.
Trump says, don't reveal everything during a negotiation.
Really? I would have thought he'd be all about transparency.
He says giving away too much too soon weakens your position.
You lose your leverage, right?
Exactly. It's about gathering intel from the other side, adapting as you go.
So it's more like a dance.
Yeah.
Back and forth.
Right, not just laying all your cards on the table immediately.
Makes sense. But man, that takes some serious self-control.
Oh, for sure, especially when you're eager to close the deal.
Speaking of deals, what about the Commodore Hotel? Wasn't that a tough one?
Oh, the Grand Hyatt. Yeah, that was a battle.
He had everyone against him, right?
Everyone, the city, the railroads, potential partners, you name it.
But he didn't back down.
Nope. Fought for his vision, and in the end, he got what he wanted.
One of the most iconic hotels in New York, right?
Exactly. So what's the lesson there?
Persistence, for sure, and believing in yourself even when no one else does.
And knowing when to walk away if the deal's not right.
Right. Sometimes you got to stand up for what you deserve.
It's inspiring, though, right?
Definitely. It shows you can achieve amazing things if you're determined.
Okay, this next topic is a bit uncomfortable, but important.
Oh, what is it?
Betrayal.
Oh, yeah, no one likes to talk about that.
But it happens in business, in life, everywhere.
Sadly, yeah.
Trump tells this story about a Broadway show he invested in.
Okay.
Went sour because the producers were shady.
Oof, that's rough.
It's a reminder to be careful who you trust.
Because people can really let you down.
And it brings up a bigger question. How do you handle betrayal?
That's a tough one. It can really shake you.
Makes you question everything.
But I think it's important to try and learn from it.
Not let it make you jaded.
Exactly, because there are still good people out there.
Right, you can't let a few bad apples ruin it for everyone.
And to illustrate how Trump deals with people who've wronged him,
Oh boy, this should be good.
he talks about Mario Cuomo, the former governor of New York.
Right.
He felt betrayed by Cuomo, and he didn't hold back.
Oh, I bet.
Called him a disloyal former friend, publicly.
Wow, so no mincing words.
Nope. It shows how much he values loyalty.
And expects it in return.
So how do you handle those situations when someone betrays you?
It's tough. Depends on the situation, you know?
Yeah, no easy answer.
Sometimes you confront them. Sometimes you walk away.
It's about protecting yourself, too, right?
Absolutely. And here's another example of Trump standing his ground.
Okay, tell me more.
The Miss Universe pageant. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, he was involved with that for a while.
He wanted to make it bigger, better, more profitable.
But he ran into trouble. Right.
Big time. CBS was airing it at the time.
Okay.
And they had their own ideas, clashed with his vision.
So what did he do?
He walked away.
No way.
Took the pageant to another network.
Wow, that's bold.
But it paid off. Got a better deal. Ratings went up.
Shows he's not afraid to take risks, right?
And to fight for what he believes in.
It's inspiring, though.
Totally reminds you that you can challenge the status quo.
Even if you're up against a giant like CBS.
Exactly. So are you holding back on your dreams?
Because of fear or doubt or what other people think.
Good question to ask yourself.
Okay, now for something totally different. Trump's hair.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
He actually dedicates a whole chapter to it in the book.
I'm not surprised.
He talks about the jokes, the criticism, the whole thing.
He owns it, you know?
Makes it clear he's happy with how he looks.
And he's not changing for anyone.
Good for him. It's about being comfortable in your own skin.
Right. He even shares some of his hair care secrets.
Oh, really? Like what?
Says he wears hats a lot and that his sheltered lifestyle helps keep it neat.
Interesting.
It's kind of a funny chapter. Shows he doesn't take himself too seriously.
It's also about not conforming, you know?
Yeah. Not letting society dictate how you should look.
So are you being true to yourself? Or are you trying too hard to fit in?
Good question, because ultimately happiness comes from being authentic.
Absolutely. Now let's get a little peek into Trump's world, shall we?
Okay, what do you have?
He tells this story about his social circle in Palm Beach.
Oh, this should be juicy.
It's all about gossip, infidelity, drama, you know, the usual.
Among the rich and famous.
Exactly. And Trump's right in the middle of it.
Knowing all the secrets.
It's a reminder that even at the top, people have problems.
And make mistakes.
And that gossip can be powerful, damaging even.
It makes you think about your own circles, you know?
The people you trust.
And what you do when you know something you maybe shouldn't.
It's a tricky balance, being a good friend, but also doing the right thing.
Okay, enough gossip. Let's talk about Melania.
Yes, his girlfriend at the time.
He describes her as exquisite, beautiful, and a great personality.
So she's a grounding force in his life.
It seems that way. He credits her with bringing stability.
It's important to have that, right? Someone you can rely on.
Especially when your life is as chaotic as his.
Makes you think about your own relationships, you know? Are they supportive?
Do they bring out the best in you?
Good questions to ask yourself.
Now, Trump also talks about someone he admires. George Steinbrenner.
The Yankees owner.
The one and only.
He was a legend.
And Trump tells this story about how Steinbrenner went out of his way to help a friend.
Even though he was super busy.
Shows his loyalty, you know?
Yeah, true friendship is about being there for each other.
No matter what.
So are you that kind of friend?
Are you there for the people you care about?
Even when it's inconvenient.
Because that's what really matters in the end.
Okay, now let's get a glimpse into Trump's daily life.
Buckle up. It's a whirlwind.
He walks us through a typical week.
Meetings, calls, interviews, travel. It never stops.
Shows you the kind of energy it takes to be at that level.
Constant hustle.
And the importance of time management, right?
Oh, absolutely. Got to be organized, efficient.
So are you making the most of your time?
Are you focused on the right things?
Because we all have the same 24 hours.
It's about using them wisely.
Okay, let's talk The Apprentice.
Ah, yes, the show that made him a household name.
He was initially hesitant, you know.
Really? I'm surprised.
He wasn't sure about doing reality TV.
But Mark Burnett, the guy who created Survivor, pitched it to him.
Okay.
And Trump was intrigued by the idea of showing people what the business world is really like.
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Exactly, and it was a genius move.
Oh, absolutely. It launched him into a whole new stratosphere of fame.
And solidified his image as a successful businessman.
So it's about recognizing opportunities, even when they're unexpected.
And being willing to step outside your comfort zone.
Because you never know what might happen.
Okay, so what did he actually want to teach people with The Apprentice?
He wanted it to be realistic, you know.
It's about the skills you need to make it in business.
Yeah. So he designed challenges that tested the contestants in different ways.
Negotiation, creativity, problem solving, leadership.
And teamwork, communication, performing under pressure.
It was about being entertaining and educational.
So what are your strengths and weaknesses?
What areas could you improve in?
Because self-awareness is crucial for growth.
And success, absolutely.
Now, let's meet some of those apprentice contestants.
Oh, yeah, some real characters in there.
We'll dive into their backgrounds, their successes, their failures.
What they learned, the whole thing.
It's a reminder that there's no one path to success.
And that diversity is valuable.
What can we learn from people who are different from us?
How can we work together, leverage each other's strengths?
Because collaboration is key in so many areas of life.
Now, this next topic is a bit sensitive, but I think it's important to address.
Okay, what is it?
The role of sex appeal in the workplace.
Oh boy, that's a minefield.
Trump actually talks about this in the book.
Really? What does he say?
He acknowledges that some of the women on The Apprentice use their looks to their advantage.
Not surprising, I guess.
He doesn't condemn them for it.
But he also says it's not a long-term strategy.
Exactly. It might work in the short term, but eventually you need substance.
Skills, knowledge, a strong work ethic.
It's a complex issue, though, right?
Absolutely. It raises all sorts of questions about gender dynamics, the challenges women face.
It's something we need to be mindful of, for sure.
Okay, let's move on to the people behind the scenes at the Trump Organization.
The ones who keep the machine running.
Exactly. He highlights some of his key executives.
People like George Ross, Carolyn Kepcher, Rona Graff, Alan Weisselberg.
And he emphasizes their loyalty, their intelligence, their hard work.
He values their ability to anticipate his needs.
To execute his vision.
To give him sound advice.
They're more than just employees.
Your trusted advisors, essential to his success.
So it's about building a strong team, surrounding yourself with the right people.
Do you foster that kind of environment?
One where people feel valued, respected, empowered.
Because that leads to better results for everyone.
Okay, what does Trump consider the key qualities for success in any field?
He lists 4: brains, energy, creativity, and loyalty.
Those are pretty solid.
And he stresses hard work, dedication, pushing yourself.
In positive thinking, visualizations,
It's about having the right mindset.
and developing the habits that help you achieve your goals.
Are you doing that? Are you working on yourself?
Surrounding yourself with supportive people.
Because it all starts with you.
Now, Trump wraps up the book with a challenge to the reader.
A call to action, right?
To apply his principles, to strive for success.
To take ownership of your future.
Because achieving wealth and fulfillment isn't passive.
It takes effort, dedication, a willingness to take risks.
And he ends with those famous words, "You're hired."
Signifying that the journey has just begun.
It's an invitation to step into the world and make your mark.
To believe in yourself, to embrace your potential.
To never give up on your dreams. It's about creating the life you want on your own terms.
And that's a great place to wrap up our deep dive into how to get rich. I mean, we've been through a lot.
We have, from those high-stakes deals to building a brand to putting together a team that can actually execute.
We've seen how Trump bounces back from setbacks, how he believes in himself no matter what.
And his drive for excellence, that's a constant theme.
But now it's time to shift gears, bring it back to you listening.
Out of everything we discussed, what really stuck with you?
What ideas could you actually use in your own life?
What did you learn from Trump's journey, even if you're not, trying to be a real estate tycoon?
Because remember, this was just a starting point, a glimpse into his world.
It's sparked a conversation, but now it's your turn to keep exploring.
What are you going to dig into further?
What actions are you going to take? What does success mean to you?
Those are the questions that really matter.
Because the best lessons often come from our own experiences,
So go out there, put what you've learned into practice.
Make your own mark on the world, whatever that looks like for you.
And that's a wrap on our deep dive into the mind of Donald Trump. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep chasing those dreams.